What is going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, I'm going to finally be ranking the Charlotte Hornets season. It wasn't the season we wanted, but there was some good, but more bad than good, but there was some good, and we're just going to rank the season overall. Now, we're going to be looking at it under a microscope, and we're kind of going to put a filter over it just because of the fact that our second best player in the offseason committed a crime. So obviously he didn't play this season. He is coming back. Miles Bridges more likely is coming back next year, so that helps, but that definitely put a damper on the rest of the season. And then the rest of the team just wasn't good enough. We did find a new center. However, our bench still looks scary as ever, and not in a good way. And James Bouknight quite didn't come around as you would expect him to. Neither did Kai Jones. However, JT Thor stepped up. So we're just going to be talking about all of that. All right, so I know I already kind of mentioned a lot of it, but we're just going to break it down, piece by piece. But overall, I think that it was, like I said, it was mainly bad, but I think there was some good. I think we had some good basketball. We saw that the guys will fight for Clifford. Steve Clifford said in his exit interview that LaMelo would text him in the middle of the night, like talking about the game and talking about the loss and things like that. I think that's good. I think that's a good sign. That's not something we heard of. Now, could Steve Clifford be making that up? Yeah, but I wouldn't take him for a guy to make something like that up. But yeah, we haven't heard of that kind of accountability in the past. So that, that's a good we could take. We can also take that some young guys have stepped up. So the JT Thors of the world, I think that after All-Star, he definitely, improved. But even before that, you saw game after game after game, he was getting a little better each game. And I think that was a big problem for me as far as not getting everybody. Because JT Thor, we see he's literally getting better every single game. I wish we could have, had Bryce McGowan out there before Mark Williams, even though his situation worked out. But I do want to say that JT Thor, Bryce McGowan, James Bouknight at the end, and I do want to see if it's sustainable, but we'll see. Teo Maledon came in and had a pretty decent season. Our bench is getting better. It's nowhere near where it needs to be. I think there's obviously some glaring holes that hopefully we can get some veteran players to fill, and I don't think to rely on these rookies or young players at this point. I do think that they do deserve their time, maybe at the end of the bench, not like the 15th, 14th guy, but if you're playing 9 all together, they can be your 8th and 9th guy. So that's something I'm thinking about, but it just depends on who they bring in the offseason, and hopefully, like I said, is a veteran player. Also, we're going to talk about Mark Williams. I really like that. I mean, another positive is that Mark Williams has just been phenomenal. He almost averaged a double-double when ended the season. Well, I think he did. Well, in the starting games. I'm not talking about overall. I think he did. It was really close. Either way, Mark Williams just has tremendous upside. I can't wait to see him play more games against guys like Jokic, guys like Joel Embiid, because now's the time. And right now we don't have another center that's kind of like on the come up. Like even in this upcoming draft class, outside of Victor, who's not really even a center, if you can get good reps against Jokic and Embiid and maybe even Giannis to an extent, Sabonis also will be a good one. I think that you got the rest of the league down pat as far as just learning how to guard different, archetypes of centers. So I do want to see him kind of more so in those moments. He didn't start till after All-Star break, so there was some, time missed. But I think overall, the Hornets did a good job developing him. I just want them to be careful because that does not work on everyone. Sending someone to the G League, because it's still not showing that it's really worked on James Bouknight, even though he, like I said, at the end of the season, he looked really good. But you just can't assume just because it worked for Mark Williams going to work for everybody. I'm not saying don't try it again. Of course, key having players do it, but you should know when to pull the plug. That's what I'm concerned about, is when, okay, this isn't how he'll develop. Maybe he needs real NBA minutes for whoever they draft or whoever they bring in. I think that's something they need to consider. But yeah, overall, they did a good job of developing Mark Williams. All right, another good is the hard fought games. I think that, like I said, we saw that the players are willing to play for Steve Clifford. I think that that's something we haven't had in the past. I am interested to see more so what we get next year. I'm pretty positive Steve Clifford is going to be the coach. I'm not too excited about that. We could talk about that in another video, but I am just, hey, it seems like it's working because he didn't have much to work with last year, so it seems like it's working. But we will see this year. There's no excuse. This is one of those seasons where, you're not getting decent results because, everyone's it's going to be the same roster for the most part, maybe even some better players. So if you're not getting decent results by All-Star break, I think that's when you should pull the plug on that, because I don't think Steve Clifford has like a deeper bag than what he's shown. It's just last year he was dealt with a tough hand, and I think he handled it pretty well. Winning 27 games isn't that bad considering a lot of things went wrong last season. All right, and so now we're going to move on to the bad, and then I'm going to give my final grade. And I mean, the bad is basically everything else. I think that, like I said, James Bouknight hasn't came along quite like you would want him to. I mean, I know this offseason was really weird for him. The arrest, and then he got injured before that. Didn't play, wasn't able to get reps in summer league. So we'll see what happens this offseason. But yeah, I just need him to produce and play better and more consistent. And a lot of that was he didn't play well at the beginning, and then he kind of stunk it up, and then they pulled him out. And then it really didn't give him another shot till the end. So that's kind of like on both their part, where he has to hold the accountability of, hey, I need to come out here and play my best ball. But then also the Hornets is where it's like, it is a young guy. He is going to make mistakes. The team's not going anywhere playoff wise. Let him play. So I get both sides. Kai Jones, also same thing, except Kai Jones, I don't think he was just in the bad graces. I think that Mark Williams was just so good. Kai Jones doesn't work at the 4. He's really only a center. He can, it depends. Like maybe PJ at the 5 will allow Kai to be able to play the 4, but we're trying to steer away from that. So I can see why they wanted this really to Kai at the 4 position work, but it just doesn't seem like it's working. He's going to be a backup center, a tertiary center, which I'm not mad at, because Mark Williams and Nick Richards have somewhat similar styles, so you have a completely different type of center you can bring in. It's just Kai Jones needs to, he has all the talent. I literally see it. It's just something that up here that he needs to fix and just get his basketball IQ down. He still hasn't played basketball for very long, so I mean that's part of a pass, but also you were a first round pick. I just think that it's going to come along. I just don't know when, and will it be too late for this team, because we're trying to see results soon. I really do feel like this team needs results soon, or else there's going to be major issues going on. Another bad is just, I mean, the veterans who just outstayed their welcome. I like Terry Rozier, but even when they re-signed him, I didn't think that was a good idea, just because of the fact that you know what type of point guard LaMelo is. Why do you think Terry Rozier, paired up with him in the backcourt for the long term would even work, especially considering at the time, you have Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and then no center. It just didn't make any sense to make that decision without, shoring up some other things first, but that's what they wanted to do. Terry's not bad. It's just not good for us. I mean, that's just truly how I feel about it. He's not a bad player at all. I like watching Terry Rozier play. Just currently what we're doing, what we're trying for, and what we have, he just doesn't fit. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with his play. I mean, in a way it does, but we can't afford for him to play as freely as he wants and shoot the percentages he do. We can't afford that, because we're trying to get something greater, and we already don't have that many pieces. So we don't really need that. You need a team that can afford to deal with that inconsistency of, oh, he had a crazy night, or oh, he was a stinker. So that's something that needs to be done. Gordon Hayward's contract, I highly doubt they get rid of Gordon Hayward's contract, but I mean, having him on the team is a negative, just because of the fact that I do think Gordon Hayward is a good player. I think he will be a good player for a different team. I actually like him on this team as far as his efficiency, and I know he didn't shoot that efficient this year, but I'm pretty sure if he's on a team, he'll bounce back next year or whatever team he's on. However, it just, once again, just doesn't make sense. I know that you're trying to get back value, but are you asking for too much? I have no idea what the market was, so that's part of it. But I just overall, I think that you have to get rid of those contracts somehow, and just having them on here this season for so long, and then probably going into next season with them. That's why you get a ding for that this season. Another thing is how you handle the trade deadline. I like opening up minutes for Mark Williams for sure, 100%. That was smart. What you got in return for Jalen McDaniels and Mason Plumlee was just not ideal at all. I know that they may not have had the highest of value, but like with what you got for Jalen McDaniels, I would have just took it. I mean, I know you got SV in that trade somehow, but it's just not worth it. I would have rather had Jalen McDaniels, especially considering we don't know what's going on with PJ, because Miles is back. So with that, it's just a lot. It's just a lot, and I don't think they thought that part through, just because PJ is going to cost so much more than Jalen McDaniels, and Jalen McDaniels, I think, has similar skill set and maybe can put the ball on the floor a little bit more than PJ can. So it's just like, I would have rather had the cheaper player, and because you're still going to have the same logjam at the forward position, but I would, and plus it would have just made it easier to, okay, we're starting Miles at the 4. No need to put him at the 3 because we have PJ there. No, it makes sense to just go ahead and put him at the 4, have Jalen McDaniels come off the bench. He's cheaper. And then also, like I said, he kind of somewhat provides the same skill set, even though I do really like PJ and think PJ is a better defender. But you just can't trade him away for what you traded him away for. That's the problem. And then, I mean, also, yet another thing you think about is just overall, it's just how this team is just ran. Overall, we have injury concerns, and apparently parents are worried. Gordon Hayward's wife is worried at one point. It's just frustrating. Cody Martin injury is something you have to think about. These injuries and not even just injuries, but how the team is just ran overall. The copy paste PR statements that we see about every single situation, just all these things I think have a problem with all these things. I think have just led to a problem with something we already know, that this team just awfully ran. So we can talk about on the court stuff all we want, but what happens behind closed doors needs to change for sure. But anyway, I'm about to give my but anyway, I mean, it is what it is. The team's been ran poorly for a long time, but that's another dinger if you ask me. And of course, just the bad season overall, as far as just not getting where we want to be, because we were so close last year. We're 2 years in a row, and we just couldn't finish the job. But overall, I would give this season a C, maybe a solid C. There were some good for sure, but it's all on the players that was good, and not about this team made a really good decision. Maybe outside of the Mark Williams thing, other than that, there really wasn't much. I mean, like I said, Dennis Smith Jr. was a surprise. However, that I'm not giving the organization credit for that. I'm glad that's here. I'm glad that happened. I can't really put that as far as a positive because of the fact that he is a free agent, and I have no idea if they're going to bring him back, even though I'm pretty sure they would want to, and I'm pretty sure, well, I actually believe they should. But overall, I just give it a solid C. I mean, it definitely could have been worse, but in a vacuum, it's a C. I mean, obviously, if nothing happened, if nothing went wrong this season and we had the same season, F-. But with everything that happened, there was some good. The players stepped up in ways. And I mean, that's really it. The players just stepped up in some ways. We had some people get better. Like I said, JT Thor, and he just shows signs that he's going to continue to get better. We have a starting center now. LaMelo looked better, of course. And overall, I mean, PJ looked better on the defensive end, which is something we need back poorly because we just don't have that many defenders. So there's some good there. But overall, organizational wise, not much. So that's what's weighing the grade down, even though, you know, some of that stuff we couldn't control, like injuries and Miles Bridges situation. But overall, like I said, I'm gonna go with a C, but let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Like I said, we're talking in a vacuum. We're not necessarily saying compared to the Lakers or anything like that, or compared to last season. It's just look at this season as just this season, and there was a lot of things that the Hornets really couldn't control to happen. Like I said, injuries and Miles Bridges. But there were some things they could control. But there were some things they could control, and they quite just didn't do a good job. But the players, like I said, stepped up, so that's helpful. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.